Welcome to the WWE Podcast Week in Review. Tonight we're going to go over everything that happened this week in WWE. And with Money in the Bank just 1 week away, we still have a few competitors that have yet to fill their spots in the Money in the Bank ladder matches. And we're going to start to look at who could actually win those matches for the men and the women. And we're going to do all of that and much more right after this. You got to check out The Mentality Show. If you could be a fly on the wall and could hear how men think, and really want to hear what goes on in the minds of everyday men, then you should check out The Mentality Show. Every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook Live. Real men, real talk. The Mentality Show. You can find them anywhere you stream podcasts and YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Just look up The Mentality Show.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast Week in Review for this Sunday, June 26, 2022. My God, June's almost over. I said that to you guys at the beginning of June. It feels like yesterday that June is the fastest month ever. For some reason, it feels like June goes by in the blink of an eye, and this year is no different with just a few days left of June, and then we're into July. And after that, guys, it's back to like football and back to cooler weather, but it'll be here before you know it. But anyway, I hope everyone's enjoying their summer. 4th of July weekend is coming up, and that also means, of course, most importantly, Money in the Bank. And that is coming on to us Sunday, a week from tonight, or depending on when you're listening to this, of course, depends on if it's a week or not, but that is when it's coming to us, is next Sunday night, and I am looking forward to the event as a whole. And really, there's a lot of unknown in this pay-per-view, and to be honest, the Money in the Bank ladder matches, while there are some front runners for candidates to win on both sides for the men and women, I think that this is one of the more interesting Money in the Bank events in recent years because of the Roman Reigns factor. And this week, it was built around SmackDown that the winner was just going to cash in on Roman Reigns if he was to retain against Brock at the event, and they were going to cash in when he's at his most vulnerable. And the weird thing about this to me with Paul Heyman, when he brought Adam Pearce out, who was kind of like the little B word, PG show guys, then he brought him out, and I'm like, oh well, I think I know what's going to be said here. Paul Heyman's going to turn it over to Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce is going to say that the Money in the Bank winner will receive an opportunity at the WWE Universal Championship, but it cannot take place that same night, right? Like if Paul Heyman has this stroke that apparently he does have somehow, some way with upper management above Adam Pearce's head, wouldn't that have been the smarter choice, right? Instead of trying to keep people out of the event, which by the way, there always has to be 6, so it's going to be filled up by somebody. It would have made more sense to me if Paul Heyman was able to use his influence, as it was put to us, to restrict anyone from cashing in that night on Roman. Now, I'm assuming they didn't do that because it still leaves some mystery, and maybe somebody could, right? The winner could, instead of having somebody cash in, or rather win the Money in the Bank briefcase. And if the stipulation is, well, they can't cash in, it takes maybe some mystery out of the possibility of them doing that. So maybe that's the reason why. But to me, I'm like, oh, if you have that much influence, like that would have been the smarter decision. But we'll dive into that a little bit more and talk about some believe it or not, I have some positive things to say about Ronda Rousey's promo this week, which was honestly much improved, and she had an on night, a very rare on night on the mic. But before we get to that, I want to get to one email I left out, and it's a patron of the show. I don't know how I missed it on the mailbag, and whenever I do this, which doesn't happen often, but sometimes emails from patrons and others fall through the cracks, and I want to get to that. And that's Nathan Palmer's email. So Nathan, let's get to your email from last week, and we'll go through this quickly and then get to the rest of the week in review. So Nathan says to us, "Hey Matt," Nathan from Sydney, "it's no longer boss time. Sorry, I had to do that, but so glad we never have to hear that again." Well, I mean, never say never, Nathan, right? Like, how many people leave the business, swear they're never coming back, swear especially they're never coming back to WWE, and then they do, right? So I very much think at some point in our lives we will hear that music again. But moving on here. So you say, "It's been a while since I wrote into the show. You know how it is. I've been listening to all the shows, though. Great content as per usual. I wanted to know what you thought of my fantasy booking, which starts at Money in the Bank through WrestleMania 39. Seth wins Money in the Bank. Roman retains all his upcoming defenses. And at the last Premium Live event of the year, Seth cashes in on Roman while he's injured. Just like a typical cash-in, takes the titles. But then Paul Heyman finds a clause in the Money in the Bank contract that you only cash in for one title, not both. Seth is forced to give Roman one title back, which keeps the Roman's reign alive. The pair have a unification match at the Royal Rumble in 2023. This is where it gets good. Roman is moments away from closing out the match when Dwayne costs him the match. Roman loses, but not clean. Meanwhile, Cody returns and wins the Rumble. This sets up Cody Seth 4 at WrestleMania 39 for the belts. It also sets up a non-title match between Joe, Roman Reigns, and Dwayne, The Rock, at WrestleMania 39. Thoughts? Good stuff from Nathan here. So I do like your Seth and Cody collision course that is going to take place at WrestleMania 39. I think it's a very realistic thought. And I also like how it's Seth Cody for the belt this time. That's a nice thing. And we don't have to worry about Roman having the belt for Rock and him having a match at 39, which I've said many, many times on this show is a bad idea. I like that. Now, the one thing I'll say about the cash in for Seth, where the Seth thinks he wins the belt, but he only gets one of the titles. And it's clever, and I like it, and it seems like it'd be one of those things like, are you kidding me? He's still Universal Champion, even though Seth now has the WWE title. The problem with that is that they made such a big deal about unifying the championship. They came up with its own name, and yes, he has two belts, and I think the two belt thing's going to stay because I think WWE likes the visual of having Roman hold two belts and the Usos holding two belts, even though having one belt would make more sense because apparently you unified the championships and the actual symbolic material of that championship should follow suit with just a single belt. But to me, while I don't think it's impossible, the problem again is that they unified the belts at Money in the Bank or at WrestleMania. And they made a big deal about the unification. It was unification. That means bringing it together. That means there's no two separate championships anymore. It's not as if on TV they're saying Roman Reigns, the WWE and Universal Champion, right? They've combined it. When they say what he is the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion. It's a mouthful. I would love to have them say the Undisputed Champion, right? Like, let's just go with Undisputed Champion. Go back to 2002, right? But I just don't think they do that because that would then undermine what WrestleMania was supposed to be. But I like your idea. I like it, Nathan, especially the Rock, Roman, and Seth Cody matchups, which I think are actually very realistic. So, good stuff, Nathan. And let's now get to the rest of the week. But first, I want to thank everybody for listening, as always, on this Week in Review, our flagship show for the entire week. Much appreciated for those new listeners. If you want to go ad-free, man, there's no better time to do it. Patreon.com/WWE podcast is the name of the game. $1 for everything ad-free, and you get a shout-out on this show and a ton more stuff for $1. Website, WWEpodcast.com. It's available to you. Go VIP there and get everything ad-free. Or Apple Podcasts, which is a 99 cent a month commitment. That's it. All right. Well, guys, listen, we also have this week something possibly bigger debuting with video, with the streaming. Things are still progressing there in a good way. I don't hope I'm not going to embarrass myself, but I will be cutting a 1-hour show, and the destination of that show, video-wise, is to be coming soon. Okay, let me just put it that way. It's coming soon, and it may also appear on YouTube, but I'm not sure. Probably, I think per the contract that I signed with them, it can't go anywhere but their network. So, but anyway, that is going to be more information soon. Okay, let me leave it there. So let's talk about this week in WWE, guys, and let's jump right into SmackDown, because again, that is always the biggest takeaway from usually the week is SmackDown. Let me start with Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser. They're brilliant. They are brilliant. I'm loving it. I love him as Intercontinental Champion. Ludwig Kaiser is a perfect manager to Gunther. Perfect. I love it. I'm loving this pair. I have literally nothing bad to say about any of this. And I find things wrong and split hairs. There's nothing to say here. Everything from the belt finally being recognized after being kind of tucked away underground for many, many, many months is now on the waist, around the waist, or on the shoulder of somebody I think is going to be a big-time player in the coming years. And Ludwig Kaiser, perfect. Love the way he announces him, the slow movements. You notice he doesn't rush anything. It's almost as if he's moving in slow motion, but he exudes confidence. Ludwig Kaiser, A+. And Walter in the ring, by the way, Gunther in the ring is if you guys haven't seen him work before, most of you have, but he is physical. That's what makes him stand out. Number one, he doesn't flip-flop and fly like most of the guys do today, the gymnastics style of pro wrestling. He's kind of an old school look and wrestler. The way that he delivers those chops, he doesn't move 100 miles an hour. He does do a drop kick, and he doesn't need to, but he does. And he has brought back the power bomb as a finish. I love that as well. So let me just say that about Gunther this week. And he faced Ricochet this week. Let me dive into it. For the Intercontinental Championship in a rematch. It wasn't as good as their original match for the Intercontinental Championship, but still good. I had no real complaints about it. And to me, it was just really good stuff. I mean, as far as just getting heat on Gunther, by the way, too, like getting heat on him was, it's necessary right now. Now, I'm reading some other websites that are not big on this, and they thought it was a massive letdown that, based on what the competitors delivered the last time, this was too short and one-sided. But then I mentioned it wasn't as good, but to me, it's about establishing Gunther as dominant, and they did just that. So this tells me Ricochet is going back to the drawing board. But this was good, and my God, is he physical. All right, let's see. Tamina versus Shotsy. That happened. I mean, they brought Tamina back out of the crypt. I guess they let her out of the basement, open up the crypt, and let Tamina come out for a match to just put somebody over, as expected. You know, I don't have a whole bunch to say here, other than the McAfee Corbin challenge. McAfee challenged Corbin to a match at SummerSlam, because we're already talking about SummerSlam. And you know what? Normally, I would be annoyed by that they're kind of overlooking this B pay-per-view of Money in the Bank. And it's a B pay-per-view. They're trying to make it an A pay-per-view, but it's still a B pay-per-view. Premium live event. That they don't have a whole lot of time between Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. SummerSlam's July 30th. Money in the Bank's July 2nd. That's like, what, 3 weeks? Barely 4 weeks? Am I losing my mind? 4 weeks? Yeah, 4 weeks. It's in the same month. Maybe that's why I'm all screwed up. But I honestly don't even know the last time SummerSlam was in July. It feels like it should always be like August 15th, August 20th, doesn't it? So this is weird to me that SummerSlam's in July. But maybe that's what it is too. They're trying to just get to that SummerSlam card to sell tickets, to let people know what's going to happen. And McAfee challenged Corbin to a match at SummerSlam. And Corbin wasn't there to accept, but we can all just kind of infer that he's going to. I mean, there's just no way he's not going to. So McAfee is just, I mean, he's a guy that if he had a bigger body and he had, dedicated the time to actually being an in-ring wrestler and spent many months getting himself ready for it and putting on muscle and all that kind of stuff, I think he does need it a little bit. He could be a top performer, a wrestler. Jeez, Vince has got me saying the corporate language. But yes, so that was good. McAfee challenging Corbin to a match at SummerSlam. I'm looking forward to that because we know at least what McAfee can and can't do in the ring, and you'd imagine that he's just getting better as time goes on. All right, Raquel Rodriguez and Lacey Evans versus Sonya Deville. And this came about after we had Adam Pearce, who was on his phone, because that's what all of WWE officials and GMs do anytime the camera's on them, is just, we're on our phones because we don't know what else to do. But we had Sonya Deville come in, and she was not happy with Adam Pearce, that she's been overlooked and that Adam Pearce is over his head. He doesn't know what he's doing with the women's division, all this stuff. And so Adam Pearce rewarded her by putting her in this handicap match with Raquel Rodriguez and Lacey Evans. And the match was fine. I mean, it was okay. It felt a little weird having the heel in a handicap match on the other end. That very rarely happens, where you have the baby faces having the numbers advantage. I don't hate it, again, because it doesn't happen often. And I don't think it didn't not work out. I think it worked out just fine. We did have Deville bring down Xia Li and Shayna Baszler. And that could be something of a group, by the way, too. That's an interesting little faction. Maybe it's a one-off. Maybe it's not. But just for the moment, anyway, we did have Lacey Evans and Raquel Rodriguez eventually clear the ring. Now, that was after the result of the match, which Raquel and Evans did beat Deville after Evans hit her. Was it Evans who hit her DDT? I forget the name of her finish. She named it something, and I apologize. I can't remember the name of her finish. Essentially, it's a DDT. Also bringing back something that should be a finish, right? We got the power bomb from Gunther being reestablished, redefined as a finish, which it should be. And the same goes now for DDT, which is now a finish. So thank you, Lacey Evans. The always inspiring Lacey Evans. I mean that very sarcastically. But anyway, so the weirdest thing about this was that Ronda Rousey, or Natalya rather, came out too and mocked Ronda Rousey. She came out with the same hair braids that Ronda does. She came out with a stroller, which was actually kind of funny. She came out with that leather jacket and cut a promo on Ronda Rousey and said that the sharpshooter almost made her tap out and that she should just tap out now to save herself the embarrassment. And Ronda Rousey does come out eventually. And this was interesting to me because Rousey actually, as I said at the beginning of the show, had some lines that actually clicked for me. They didn't feel like she was just rehearsing them in her head 100 times backstage and then regurgitates them on the air. It was actually a decent promo from Rousey, one of her better ones. And one of the better lines she had was that she said to Natalya, "The closest thing you'll ever get to being a main attraction in this company is dressing up like me." That was good. It's true, right? That's the other thing too, is it's true for Natalya, because we all know what's going to happen to Natalya after this. She's going right back to doing her Instagram and putting on her cat ears and, doing, pictures of her in push-up bras or whatever she does on Instagram. But Ronda Rousey also whacked her talking about how she doesn't need to artificially enhance her body to live up to impossible beauty standards or something like that. So obviously alluding to the fact that Natalya has had a lot of work done, and she has, right? I mean, there's no doubt. Like, she's had breast augmentation, she's had lip fillers. There's no doubt, right? Like, it's just an objective fact. Okay, she has. You look at her, you know. I mean, there's just no doubt. And so Ronda Rousey hammered her for that. So that was interesting to me. And the crowd went, oh, because that's the first time anybody's ever acknowledged that. And that's a very rare thing, too. And you wonder if that actually came up a little bit off the script of Rousey saying that. Because very rarely do you mention anything about like breast augmentations or work being done on your body to adhere to the social standard for beauty or whatever she was trying to say. Because a lot of the times there is a lot of, like, women do on the roster, sometimes, not all of them, certainly not all of them, have work done. And it's something that's it gets done, but no one talks about it. Like, it just gets done and we move on and we don't even discuss it. Rousey's calling it out. Now, she's the only one that can call it out, because if a man did that, obviously that would cause a whole bunch of issues. So, yeah, that's what it is. And I really, the promo, I think, worked. It worked for Rousey. It worked for Natalya. And I'm looking forward to the match, even though we all know the outcome. So there is that. But one thing I want to just address before we move forward, guys. There's been people ask me, like, well, what do you think about with politics, right? Like, we don't talk about politics on this show. That is a hard and fast rule. We don't. And I'm not going to talk about politics other than to say, if you guys want my opinion on politics, specifically like Roe v. Wade and that whole just like debacle going on, we won't talk about it on the show. Okay. Now, some people are like, trying to dig and see what my opinion is. For some reason, it's important to people because if I'm on one side or the other, there's no such thing today, guys, as like being able to reasonably talk with the other side. If somebody believes something you don't politically, it's almost like a religion, right? Whatever side of the aisle you fall on. If you don't believe that person, oftentimes now people are ostracizing each other, not even able to be friends with people anymore because they believe in something different than you do politically. So it's amazing. That's all I'm going to say. No specifics, but we don't talk about it on the show. I know obviously the world is burning, so to speak, figuratively, hopefully not literally, over the decision over the last week. And anyway, let's move on. I just wanted to address it, guys. We're not going to talk about it here other than for those 2 minutes I just did. Okay, moving on. So let's see here. What else was big on SmackDown here? Of course, Money in the Bank qualifiers was a big thing. Sonya Deville, who, the one thing I'll say about her, and I'm only bringing this up because she's posting crap constantly. Look, I know she is in a relationship. I think she's married to a woman. I don't know. She's lesbian. I'm fairly sure. She's either bisexual or lesbian, right? She makes this very, very, very clear. I mean, this isn't me digging up dirt on her. She posts this like it's, the most impressive, most important thing in her life is this. To me, that I don't care what side you fall on. Like, Sonya Deville is like, I'm sorry. She seems very interested in herself. Okay. And maybe you have to have an ego to be successful in this company. I think you have to have it to some degree, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of Sonya Deville, and not because she has a wife. I could care less about that. Just the way she goes about things, right? When everything she posts is about her. It's about her. And oh my God, look at me. Oh my God, I'm married to a woman. It's like, well, great, cool. But like that's not new, fascinating, or bold. Like, that's been going on for a long time. Congrats, but I don't know. It's like she's trying to like stir crap up, I think. And that's the problem I have with it, is she's trying to stir things up from people. And I'm not a fan of that, because you're encouraging in a toxic environment. You're trying to create something. And I know she's been trying also to bring in like LGBT storylines and all that stuff. And I think that's a very bad idea, simply for the fact that it's extremely controversial, and you could be turning off a portion of your audience and it's not needed in the world of professional wrestling. The world of professional wrestling is doing just fine, not bringing in extremely controversial topics that bring in the outside world into WWE, where it would be a detraction from the actual story and what's going on. And people honestly watch wrestling to escape political stuff. And so anyway, I'm only bringing this up because Sonya Deville is extremely, in real life, not her character, in real life, a very big, outspoken advocate for WWE, or maybe they, I don't know what their stance is on Sonya, but she oftentimes is just very, very, seems pushy about things when she doesn't need to be. I don't know. She just seems like anyway, I'm moving on. I'm not a fan of Sonya Deville's motives. I think that's what it is. My perceived motives, not what she, again, somebody's going to come our way saying like, oh my, what does he think about gay marriage? No. That's not the point. It's the motives behind her actions is what I question. That's my perceived motives. That's all. That's all it is. I think it would be toxic for pro wrestling. Anyway, moving on. How about that for tiptoeing around politics? New Day versus Shanky and Jinder Mahal in a, good God Almighty, a dance-off. Yeah, it's as bad as you'd imagine. It's as cringeworthy as you'd imagine. It is as secondhand embarrassment as you'd imagine. I mean, this was bad. No, but I don't know what it is, the appeal of Shanky dancing. I mean, I guess he's more relevant now than he ever was, and great, but you have a 7-foot tall giant dancing. Cool. Let's see how long that goes. But Jinder Mahal seemed very turned off by it. Jinder was shoved away by Shanky, and then he continues to dance with Xavier Woods and Kofi, who are just stuck in a time loop and just will not evolve. But then, thank God, we get some semblance of order from, of all places, the Viking Raiders, a returning Viking Raiders with new music, a new entrance, and altered attire. Generally the same characters as far as they're Vikings, right? I mean, they're still the Viking Raiders, but they feel different. They're a heel team, number one, first and foremost, now too. That's important. They destroyed both Kofi and Xavier. That's always fun to see them just get demolished. Anytime Kofi and Xavier get flattened, it's a good day for me. But they had a different attitude, and I think they had a different feel and attitude, and I think that is what's going to carry them to that next level and possibly eventually be challengers to the tag titles once they come off the Usos, because you're not going to have heel versus heel there. So, but so the Viking Raiders attacked the dance-off. I never thought I'd be so happy to see the Viking Raiders. All right. Well, let's see here. Let's take one quick break, guys. We're going to take a quick break for the sponsor of today's episode, and then we're going to come back, and then the back end, we're going to talk about another Money in the Bank qualifier, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn, and much more. So stay right here. You got to check out The Mentality Show. If you could be a fly on the wall and could hear how men think and really want to hear what goes on in the minds of everyday men, then you should check out The Mentality Show. Every Wednesday at 6 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook Live. Real men, real talk. The Mentality Show. You can find them anywhere you stream podcasts and YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Just look up The Mentality Show.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, Money in the Bank qualifier. Do I need to say what kind of quality match you're going to get with Shinsuke and Sami? Nope. I mean, they have had a long story arc here. And speaking of story arc, before I forget, WWE did advertise Roman and Brock as the finale. I think it was the word they used. The culmination, I think finale was it, of the 7-year-long program between Roman and Brock. I think they did say that, at least acknowledging that this is going to come to an end mercifully between Brock and Roman. The WWE, they can't do this anymore. And I do suspect there's a chance of Brock and Roman getting booed. Not out of the fact of disrespect, just out of the fact of people tired of this program. Just sick and tired of it. As good as Brock and Roman are together, and I would argue their WrestleMania match wasn't that great, they can't go to the well with this anymore. They just can't. So Sami Zayn, he was interested, or insisting that he was merely protecting Roman by trying to get a spot for Money in the Bank. And the honorary Uce, I'm surprised he hasn't come up with a t-shirt, by the way. He said that he downed the artist twice at ringside, nearly winning once by countout and seizing control throughout the commercial break. Nakamura overcame that, as they always ask, can Nakamura get back in this? Can the babyface get back in this? Well, we're going to commercial, and the answer is 100% always yes. But so here we go. Zayn and Nakamura then kept battling back and forth. We did finally get Zayn pinning clean Nakamura. Clean. So Nakamura loses. I don't even remember the last time Sami Zayn won a match clean, no matter who the opponent is. So it's good to see Sami get a victory. And they kept playing on the fact that he's a cowardly heel. That's fine. How Sami runs away from everything. That's generally what they've been pushing. But to see Shinsuke lose clean here was a bit shocking, only because of the fact that in most fans' minds, they still kind of put Shinsuke above Sami. And when you ever put a babyface and heel together, most of the time, as a general rule, the babyface can beat the heel if everything's clean. There's no interference or anything. But in this case, Zayn won. That's it. Now, we did have Sami Zayn also say that he's not going to cash in on Roman Reigns. He said, I'm doing this to protect him. After Kayla Braxton interviewed Zayn. And he said, or who asked if he would, after he said he wouldn't cash in on Roman Reigns, but he would cash in on Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman did kind of give him a look, saying, essentially that get out of here because you shouldn't even suggest that Brock has a chance of winning. That's the implication, I would imagine. But Sami Zayn still kind of trying to hold on to being part of the cool crowd by being an honorary Uce. It's entertaining. Now, Drew did kick off the show. I'm kind of going in a weird reverse mixed up order. But Drew McIntyre did kick off the show, of course, just insufferably welcoming us to SmackDown. I'm not even going to go into it. But the goal here was laying out his path to the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes interrupted, and it led to a back and forth. Paul Heyman, that's when I said, and Adam Pearce came in, and that's where we had Adam Pearce go back on his decision to put both Drew and Sheamus in that Money in the Bank ladder match, and that if they want to earn their way, the higher stake to earn the way, they had to beat the Usos and coexist tonight. So we got the old tag team partners who hate each other type of deal, and it was fine. I didn't hate this. But this is a quote, a review that I'm quoting. It said that this is not much. This is not to say the match itself will not be good, because the talent involved can turn the match into a match of the year candidate any time. It's just a shame that such a convoluted setup that makes no sense did not need to exist. Yeah, this didn't need to exist. This didn't need to exist. Adam Pearce could have easily rectified the situation after the double disqualification 2 weeks ago when they both hit each other with a chair, Sheamus and Drew, that is, by saying, no, this match will not continue that way. No disqualifications, let's get a winner. And instead, he decides to put both of them in the match, which makes no sense. And now he's making them earn it again. So, yeah, there is that. But let's see. McIntyre did point out that Brock Lesnar came back and was gifted a championship match opportunity, and then vowed to Claymore whoever won the match between Roman and Brock. And Sheamus bashed Arch Manning, the newest University of Texas football recruit. So there was that. And let's see here. Pierce revealed that the decision to add both McIntyre and Sheamus had been overturned by WWE management. So, yeah, that's how that happened. But the main event did see Drew and Sheamus, and you know what? It was an okay match. I thought it was fine. They ended up beating the Usos, as if there was any doubt. Like, if they didn't beat the Usos, what would McIntyre and Sheamus have done at the event on Sunday, right? And there's just almost no way. So McIntyre and Sheamus did beat the Usos, and we did get Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford on commentary to hype their team title match of the Usos against the Usos at Money in the Bank. Don't forget, there's that match too. I have nothing against, the Street Profits conceptually. I mean, Angelo Dawkins is, to me, just he's getting cringier by the moment. And I don't mean in ring, just his character is, I don't know. I'm a Montez Ford fan. I've said that many times. I think he is the star of the show, and he will be a future WWE champion, or whatever the top belt is called when he gets there. But if I have to hear Montez Ford on a random segment transition where they have to introduce the Street Profits going, yeah, like they're just clapping randomly, and then they have to like promote other people's matches, and it's I don't know. It just is a little bit unbelievable there. But the Street Profits are going to go against the Usos at the event, Money in the Bank, for those tag team belts. And there is a small chance they could win. But we'll save our predictions and previews for later this week. Later this week, I'm bringing on a preview and prediction co-host. So that'll be fun. But anyway, let's see here. Let's briefly talk about Monday Night Raw. I know we have John Cena coming tomorrow night for his 20th anniversary that I'd imagine would set something up between him and Wrestler X at SummerSlam. I'd imagine that's what the point of this is. But on Raw, let's see. We got a women's fatal 5-way to determine a new number one contender to challenge Bianca Belair, and that ended up being Carmella to win that. Yeah, people booed that, and not for the reason that you'd want. But Vince McMahon made a useless appearance, just completely useless. Thank God he didn't show up again on SmackDown. Omos defeated Riddle for the Money in the Bank qualifying match. Lashley interrupted Austin Theory's pose down. Angelo Dawkins defeated Jey Uso with a sit-down powerbomb. Elias hit Kevin Owens with a guitar. And Bobby Lashley defeated Chad Gable, Otis, and Theory in a gauntlet match. That was kind of the biggest, from what I remember, the biggest bulk of the quality wrestling came from that kind of Bobby Lashley gauntlet match and story, leading to him earning the United States Championship opportunity at Money in the Bank. But AJ Styles defeated Ciampa with a phenomenal forearm. And then Asuka defeated Becky in a main event match here for a Money in the Bank qualifying spot. So that is Monday Night Raw in a nutshell. Of course, tomorrow night on Raw is going to be a big night as John Cena returns, as I said. So that's going to be the headlines all over the place. What he does, who interrupts, is there a match coming? We'll see. So a lot going on, guys. So much to discuss and talk about, but I really appreciate everybody coming on, listening, because I know there's lots of options out there, and consider going ad-free, guys. Really would support the show, or just giving us a 5-star rating and review. Spotify offers ratings. Apple Podcasts, of course, you can rate the show as well as other podcast platforms too. So tomorrow night, guys, Anthony DeMarco and I will be back with a new current state of WWE. And then Tuesday will be the Monday Night Raw review. Wednesday's mailbag, and then much more content coming this week with a Money in the Bank preview and prediction show, as well as a post show after the event ends. So lots to talk about, lots to discuss. It's another premium live event week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I do appreciate it. Consider going VIP or ad-free at patreon.com/WWE podcast. Until then, guys, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.